Welcome everybody to the Professional Career Transformations course, Strategic Career Building, How to Become a CEO. We've got a special guest in the house today. We've got Mr. Donald Evans. Donald is a senior network engineer. He's also a real estate and crypto investor. Donald, sir, how you doing today?
Doing all right, Mr. Patrick Horton. I'm sorry, Dr. Patrick Horton.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, introduce yourself, your job title, where you're located. Things like that.
Well, like you said, name's Donald Evans. I live down here in Atlanta, Georgia. Senior network engineer, as you said, but I also dabble in real estate. Been doing that since the crash in 2008. A little bit before then, but I guess that's when it got really, really hot and heavy during that crash. And got into crypto around 2017, just doing things with my son, playing around, but then really got heavier into it into 2020, pretty much during the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, like I said, and for those of you that are listening, me and Donald go way back. We used to work in Afghanistan together. We used to run the free internet cafe program for the troops, $100 million program back in 2000, 10, 11, 12. So it was a real high profile program. Don, I mean, can you tell me, how did you choose your career in general? Like, how did you get started? How did you choose your career? How did you get to kind of where you are?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, like most of us when we were kids in high school, trying to figure out what we're gonna do when we graduate.
Right.
But
right.
I got a partial scholarship, and I was like, not ready to go to college quite yet. So one of the other options, both my parents were in the Army, my sister was in the Navy, and grandfather, and so on and so forth. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go military, but I didn't want to be active duty. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna go guard. That way I can get the education, get the money for it and everything, but still be more active into my regular life and didn't have to sign over as much as my time like that. So military was a big part of that. And at the time, satellite communications and networking was paying the highest bonus. So that's what I picked.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shoot. So, I mean, obviously before we kind of get into the full story, do you have any major education, training courses, certifications, anything like that?
So with the military, of course, they're going to do all the hands-on training and giving everything you need. So it's not like you're really going out, and maybe it's different now, but I know when I was coming in, that was in 99. Basically they taught you everything they needed. They sent you to any courses that you needed to, but you didn't really come out with any certifications that you went and tested for and got like we do, more in modern times now. Maybe active duty did, I don't know, but being guard, I didn't get that. But early on, I knew I was going to be in IT probably as soon as maybe junior year. I knew I was doing something in communications because as a kid, I was playing around with computers, taking them apart, just like anybody else, for the most part that had those things around them. So then once I figured out where I wanted to go in it, sort of, kind of, I knew I didn't want to be in anything stuck typing on a computer all day, doing servers, but that's actually the field that I went into just because I was working with Microsoft equipment. So I went and got my MCSE first, my Microsoft Certified Professional, which was right underneath the MCSE. And then I went for my MCSE. So that led me down that path to say, you know what, I can get into some computer jobs. I didn't mind A+ type of things. I went and got my A+, went and got my Security Plus, got my Cisco certifications, got my CWNP, which is a wireless certifier. I did Aruba boot camps. I mean, I went and did a bunch of things, but some of those came later. But in the beginning, it was just like my MCSE, my MCP. And as I was figuring out which route I was going to go in the military, by talking to just different mentors that I had around me.
Yeah, I think you even did you do iDirect training as well? And
yeah, did the iDirect training, that was something that one of the companies, we both worked for, they sent us to that just to get us spun up on hub activities with the, satellite hubs that we had for the terminals that were out in the field that were shooting back to the hubs in Germany and Spain or wherever we had our hubs for our teleports.
Right. And I'm really interested about your current role, right? So I know what do you if you were to describe what you currently do in regards to your day-to-day responsibilities at your current organization, maybe any kind of also, entrepreneur, ventures that you have going on, and then, start from where you are currently today, and then maybe even work your way back until it's like where you kind of came from.
So right now, I'm like I said, I'm one of the senior network engineer architects for the CDC in Atlanta, Centers
Mhm.
for Disease and Control. How I ended up in that job is kind of funny because I was not even actually looking for it. I just came back from being overseas, just taking off because I was overseas, 14 something years of my adult life. I wanted to just take some time off and unwind from all the, wild and crazy times traveling from Iraq to Afghanistan to Kuwait to Germany, wherever we were, just bouncing
Right.
all over the world for the last 14 years. And I just wanted to just sit down. So I ended up speaking to one of my buddies that I met overseas, how we make connections and meet people and everything. And he ended up putting me on to a hospital group that traveled. So I took about 6 months off, but I knew I've never wanted to be one of those people just sedentary, just sitting at a job, not really going anywhere, especially from us coming up from overseas. We were bouncing around, hitting different
Right.
sites, hopping on helicopters, flights,
Right.
and I kind of like that on the go thing. It's a little different once you start having kids and getting married, but since I've never been married, do have a child, that came later on down the line. But I kind of like that on the go feel, not so much living out of your suitcase type of on the go, but I still wanted to move about until I was ready to find something a little bit more stable. So I got put onto this hospital group down in Franklin, Tennessee. And so we were hopping around, upgrading all of the hospital systems. And this is when the electronic medical records was a big thing. As the government's now trying to put everything on the cloud and digitize things and everything. So we were going around for this hospital group, just going around digitizing everything and upgrading their computer systems, and that was pretty great. And I did that for about a year, and then I have my resume. I have no clue where I have my resume. It might have been Indeed, it might have been Monster, it might have been, I don't know where it was, but these people found me, and they found me from things that we did when we were on the internet cafe program, like what you were just talking about. They found me and wanted a wireless engineer because we were doing Aruba internet cafes out there. And Aruba, I guess at that time, was still pretty new in the space compared to like Cisco Wireless, Meraki, those type things. So they had hit me up, asked me, "Hey, would you like to come over for this job and check it out? We're working with the CDC, and was a contractor of the CDC." And I was like, well, it does put me in Atlanta. It puts me into the CDC, which that's a very large organization, government organization. I'm used to the government system anyway. I said, why not? Let's see how this goes. I left the hospital group because I was bouncing around. I kind of got tired of that after a while. But it was good for just reintegrating back into America. And so took the CDC job with, I can't even remember the company now. That was like 9 years ago or 8 years ago. And started off doing the wireless, the Aruba upgrades and everything like we did overseas, a little bit more robust, but basically the same thing. Took some certifications, some more wireless certifications and some more classes on it, as well as just other wireless things, just because the CDC has, a hodgepodge of multiple vendors, but they centralize on Cisco for the most part. But we still have Junipers, we have some Aruba, we have a couple different things. So yeah, that's how I ended up at the CDC. But just to work backwards, I worked my way up through some things inside of their organization where I was the wireless engineer, and then I started working on the firewall team, started working with F5s. A lot of these things I had never even touched, especially at like F5s and firewalls to some extent, but not to the extent that I am now, where I'm building them from scratch and I'm implementing them and doing it in the cloud even, because now you have the implementation of cloud coming in, so Azure, AWS. I mean, it's with the Internet of Things and the way the world's going, everything's being touched by something internet related, IP related. It's getting wilder and wilder out here.
Right.
So
If you were to kind of continue on, so obviously that's what you do as far as I don't want to say the word, your corporate career, right? In regards to your own personal entrepreneurial ventures, what are the kinds, I know you're into real estate, you're into crypto, like you talk about that a little bit.
So first thing, yeah, we'll come to the real estate, which is something as I mentor some other kids that I deal with, is like I'm telling them, having them read entrepreneurial books and everything. Like my uncle was a big character in my life when it came to that. One of the first books he had me read was like Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I'll say this: my parents were like the poor mom and dad, and my uncle was like the rich dad. So I was getting that, two sides of the coin of the working man and the businessman. So one of his things was you always need to own something. Same way, like the way that I joined the military, he said, look, if you're not going to go to college, you need to make sure that you're putting multiple golf clubs in your bag. So you always got a different tool to pull out of that bag just in case something happens. So
Most of the golf
that
clubs
comes
in your
down.
bag, I like it. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's like, you got to have multiple streams of income, because if your legs break and you can't walk, you can't do something, and you got to go physically into work, you got to have something else to fall back on. So he was already doing, my uncle is he's a commercial and residential builder. And he had already been inside of that, because once he retired at 41 from his company, he decided to just roll his money into real estate. And this is pre-market crash of 2007. So then comes along, I think we really started hitting it hard. Like me and two of my other cousins, we were overseas together, and you know both of them. But
of course. Yeah.
we were all overseas making pretty good salaries, living our lives, and needed something else to do to diversify. We always had our 401ks, our IRAs, and everything that you need to do just as a young professional, make sure that you're setting yourself up for success later on for your old self, as my cousin likes to call. Don't let your young self, screw over your old self.
This is true. Yeah.
Spending all that money. Make sure you set yourself up. So,
right.
Like I said, my uncle was a commercial and residential builder. He was doing different programs inside the hood, meeting different people, building different commercial, residential things. And at the time, this is before I actually decided to become a contractor and come overseas. I was still just in the military, going to school, just doing, I wasn't even working a real job. I was just working for my uncle. I was doing electrician's apprenticeship. I was just doing different things and trades and skills inside of the housing thing, because my uncle already had the company. So I'm like, well, I know I'm gonna be a part of this, and eventually I'm gonna try to be an owner or own a piece of this as well, myself, me and my other cousin. So after we started making a little money overseas, as a contractor overseas, and the money that we had saved up in the other things that we have done prior to joining the military, it's like, you know what, let's put this money into some real estate. The crash happened. That made it very easy to enter the market. My uncle was already in the market doing different things for different people who wanted to either build from scratch or wanted to do HUD programs where, for like single mothers, they would pay half up front, and then the single mother would have to come up with half. Let's say it was like $70,000. You would come up with 35, and an investor would. So they had different programs, and that was the start of it. And then to the point to where we ended up going into Cleveland, we ended up going into Atlanta, we ended up going into Louisville, Kentucky, which is where I'm originally from. We just started buying different properties and just learning the game, with my uncle and my cousins. We were bringing our synergy from just having IT, so bringing that part to it, trying to tie that to the real estate, to any other investments, and just anything else we were trying to get into, whether it be, trying to start crypto businesses or trying to start, whatever little business. So tying that all together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and what are your, as far as your investments into crypto or your thoughts on crypto, like, how do you think that plays into your portfolio? Because I can tell, you got like the theme is like you got a portfolio of ventures that you're into, and you almost kind of like, who knows what who knows what job function, what investment opportunity, who knows what the big thing is going to be in 2030. So it's almost like if you're well diversified, you're ready almost for anything that happens. You can kind of jump on that opportunity, and you press the opportunity when you get the chance, right?
Yes.
So I mean, what as far as just in your thoughts on crypto, or how are you into that?
Well, I know once I started hitting crypto heavy, I looked at it as a tool for, like, one of my main causes that I like is helping the youth. And that's where most people, because that's where you can make some generational change. It's a little bit harder for people older than us, or even at our age, because of just where our time frame is. But if I can get to those middle schoolers to early high schoolers and get them on the right path, it's like, especially Black and brown, who, we've been, I don't even really know how to say that, but
It was like just a lack of education early on, right?
yeah,
Like,
just like
you just don't know.
access,
You work your
having
job,
access.
information. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the great things that I loved that my uncle did for me when I took my first overseas trip. Wasn't quite Europe or anything, but it was the Bahamas. And I think I was 15, 16, and that changed my life. And then to the point to where when I joined the military and I started traveling with one of my older cousins, you know, the next big trip was Mexico. But all of these asset classes and these investments make sense depending on, well, I won't even say do it for everybody's life if they can do it and if they want to, because you know, you can take the traditional path and just work and put in your 401k, or you can take another path and you can start owning some different things to bring in some different funds. Crypto, I think, is one of those things that's still in its infancy. It's still barely a teenager when you compare it to other asset classes. And there's so much in the digital world that is taking place. Like I just told you, everything is getting digitized. Pretty soon, the dollar is going to go away. It will not exist.
Right.
So getting used and getting your children, you know, Bitcoin, the major grandfather of all the cryptocurrencies, you know, getting them in that space, whether it be the metaverse, you know, you see Facebook and Meta and Oculus, things that Facebook owns to put you inside of 3D universes, and just where technology is going, you know, it's just wild. So those things are going to be very intricate. Like you said, 2030, we don't know what's going to be happening, but I can probably tell you, we probably won't have a physical dollar anymore, I would imagine.
Yeah, but you know what though? I would add to that, right? It's all about like, you know, like digital knowledge commerce, right? Anything you can record. You know, it's funny. It's like, I think that for us old folks, right? We're going to wake up tomorrow and we're going to be shocked with the amount of money that people can make in online forums, whether it be, cryptocurrency, whether it be knowledge commerce, whether it be social media. The way people make money tomorrow is going to be so different than the way that we made money back in the past, right?
Man.
Back in the day,
already
it was
see it
about
happening.
brick and mortar, getting a job, saving your 401k money, all that stuff like that. Things are going to completely change. And it's going to throw people off of how much money some of these young people are going to be able to make with such little skill, just because they have an influence and they have a subscriber. Because you have a global market of people that everyone at the end of a keyboard on a computer can access whatever brand, whatever you're selling, essentially.
Yeah.
But so I mean, if I were to kind of like, if you were to give, a piece of advice on, how would, if you were a young person getting into either real estate, network engineering in regards to like cybersecurity, IT, things like that, real estate, like I said, real estate, cryptocurrency, your professional career, any kind of educational topics that you would want to teach, starting a YouTube channel, like where would you like tell people to start from today? Like, what courses would you recommend? Like if I were just to give you a quick, example, right? Like one of the most, so I went the traditional career route, got a help desk job and got a help desk manager job, and then kind of like grew from there. And then when I decided to become an entrepreneur, the best course I took was like the entrepreneurial boot camp, right? It was like a ABC course. It was a $400 course that taught you how to create a business plan, about digital marketing, about small business financing, about small business accounting, about just, how to do like an elevator pitch and business development, just those little ABCs about how to do that stuff. Then you start an entrepreneur venture. Like if you could pick, what would you recommend someone do that was getting ready to get into any of the fields that you're getting ready to get into do?
Well, if it's IT, I mean, especially what I do with is network engineering and architecture, I'd say king right now is probably Cisco. So it's easy for you to just do your Googles and find out where can I get a Cisco boot camp and whatever it is that I want to learn, whether it's design and architecture, whether it's in Wi-Fi, whether it's in data centers, whatever you want it in. Google and YouTube are a great resource to at least get you started. If you don't have friends already in it or other older mentors or younger mentors, doesn't matter, anybody that you get information from. But if at all else, you have the greatest tool in modern times, a cell phone and Google and YouTube. Everybody has access to that for the most part. So I definitely say start there, whether it's in IT, and just I would start from there. I mean, you can talk to, I'm pretty sure everybody has somebody, one of their peers that's in it, but if anything else, just start the Cisco trail, starting with your CCNT and figure it out from there. Figure out which way that you want to go. If it's crypto, first thing I tell you to do is figure out who Satoshi Nakamoto is and
Right.
read about Bitcoin, how it started, digital currencies, what their goals are, get the basic foundations of whatever it is that you're looking for. If it's real estate, there's all types of real estate courses out there, free and paid. I would tell you, if you have limited income, you need to start with what is easiest and most accessible to you, which is your YouTubes and your Googles, and get your basic information down. Go to your local HUD in your city, start seeing how they do certain programs. I mean, there's talk, or just if you see somebody like okay, I'm gonna talk about Louisville, Kentucky. You can go on the Jefferson County's website and you can see who owns properties, which is how a lot of these agencies, like from California and different places, they can get information of people who own things just by looking up certain properties or have like a headhunter in the city. And then they can solicit you to buy your property because it's all public information. Now, some other cities and counties, they do things a little differently where you have to pay for the information just because, think about Atlanta. You got a lot of famous people out here. If you know their name, you can go get their address, and then you go, depending on the type of gated community they have or not, you can run up on their property. So I don't know. I think the more money's in certain places, it depends on how they're going to give you access to some of that stuff. But yeah, Google and YouTube's a great place. Your local community colleges, if you're not at a 4-year, friends, family, things like that, churches, and wherever you meet people.
Right. And I would add to that too. I would say that, I think that to get the general knowledge, it's good to go to YouTube, your junior colleges, just kind of like try to learn the information so you can get a grasp on the basic concepts. But I do think there's intrinsic value in, hey, if I want to go become a project manager and I want to take the PMP boot camp, let me actually go to the boot camp. I went to the boot camp in Dubai, right? And now I'm sitting in a boot camp in Dubai, and I've got a guy that works from like a cell phone company that wants to be a project manager, a guy that's from an engineering company, a guy that's from a manufacturing company, the guy that's teaching, the professional that's teaching the course, it worked for like, some oil refinery in South Africa. You know what I mean? It's like, when you got those big ticket ones, you almost want to spend the money to build your network out. You know what I mean? Now you're exposed to like, different people in like 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 different industries that you have a LinkedIn network to where when you need to find career opportunities, you can like lean on some of those folks. And now you got like a group of people that because it seems like everything's about groups these days. You got like,
and about who
and the professional groups you're a part of, and things are growing like that. So that's what I would say. It's like, get the general knowledge on your own time, but when you want those big ticket, that's going to be your bread and butter, I would recommend going to like a boot or professional or training camp and like going there and doing that. And that's just like
definitely, because you have the money to do it. And if you don't,
right,
if you're focused in your career on where you're going anyway, you're probably already in the profession and working on getting to that next level. So that, let's say it's $5,000. Well, that $5,000 may net you $10,000 more a year or $15,000
money to make money.
Yeah. So like getting my degree and getting that MCSE, when I first got that first job, well, I still had that experience behind me, even though it may not have been in networking, it was still in IT. Right. So now I'm a dual threat. I can do your networking and I can do your servers and I can do your computer architecture. And so it's like paying that extra 10, 15, whatever it is, even your degrees, when you start getting your degrees, there's traditional routes and there's non-traditional routes. And there's no one way to, cut that cookie and spread it out. Everybody has a different route, but there's some commonalities between, how we can get there. You definitely have to get the education, whether it's, the formal traditional 4-year college education or the certifications or the different routes that you can get it, or just the classes and getting that information and be able to answer those questions to be able to get that interview. So,
let me talk on that a little bit too, because, sometimes in my mind, I'm thinking like, it's better to, let's just say you want to start your own LLC and become an entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't it better to go work for a company, gain those skills that the company will provide you, and then go start your LLC? Because you've already it's like basically make your mistakes on someone else's dime, right? You know what I mean? Go learn all those knowledges, and then you can go start your own company, and then you're just better well suited, right? If I'm 18 years old and I've got no skills, no education, no nothing, no experience, and I try to start my own LLC, what am I don't want to say the word that what am I qualified to run a lemonade stand? But sometimes there's value in learning something from an organization and then coming back out and then go start your LLC, or how like interweave in all that? You know what I mean? What are your thoughts
Most
on that?
definitely. Definitely get that inside information. Like you said,
Right.
especially if you can get it on somebody else's dollar. But and like I said, both ways can work. I'm actually going through that with one of my little cousins. He's 23 years old, young professional, graduated from college, he's a CPA, and he's looking to get into real estate. So we've been talking for like the last couple of years, and he does like most of us in certain things we're doing, we'll double dutch, put a foot in, put a foot out, talk
Yeah.
ourselves out of it, talk ourselves back into it.
Right.
Best thing sometimes in certain things, the best thing you do is just put your money where your mouth is and do it, and figure it out along the way. But don't overextend yourself, or as they say, don't over leverage. Over leverage yourself.
Right.
But if you can comfortably get in and start learning as well, like you said, definitely get that basic knowledge either way, as much as you can free. And if that's at a company, get it, because
Right.
it's free education.
Right.
So
Right. If now I'm gonna go to a little bit more of a not I won't say a controversial topic. If you were to pick like some of the shortcomings in any one of your career field, whether it be the network engineering, the senior network engineer career, in the real estate or the crypto, like if you could pick some of the shortcomings in your career that you wish could be changed, what would some of those shortcomings be? And then I guess the follow-up would be after that, how would you fix them?
okay, so inside of IT, man, I mean, most of the shortcomings come from the people that's hired. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right, yeah, your staff.
It's just you're just not going to get away from that. It's like poverty. It's not going anywhere. So we can talk about that till we're blue in the face.
Right,
Unless people are just going to really get real stringent about how they hire people, and especially when they let them go. So like in any profession, you always have your dirt bags, and then you have your people that shine. So you just got to figure out where those people are and where to put them.
right.
That's the main thing. As far as crypto, I mean, we can talk a lot about it next. Like I said, that's in its infancy. I say the biggest thing that I've been learning that I wish was a little bit stronger, especially when you go between different crypto projects, because each coin has different utilities, different uses, different following. You got people that are true Bitcoinists, and they believe Bitcoin's going to 1 million, and they're doing things to prop that up and make sure that it does. But the biggest thing the shortcoming that I've seen is inside of crypto, besides regulation, but I don't believe in regulation in crypto because that's not where it was headed. I do believe we should have some type of safeguards or something in there, but not true government regulation. Although it would help, that's not what crypto was founded on, but just it's something called what do they call it? It's basically getting everybody on one accord. So like when you believe in a project, it's just like the same things in a stock. Let's take Amazon. So Amazon missed their earnings by such and such the other day. They might have missed it by 0.5%, their earnings. Their stock took a 20% dive. Consensus, that's the word I was looking for.
Right.
So all of these institutional investors and regular investors on Robinhoods and your other apps where they're doing this. So earnings took a hit and their stock dropped 20%.
Wow.
Now they were supposed to make, let's say it's 138 billion. They made 137.5 billion. How does that equate? Now, of course, there's other factors in our economy that's going on right now, but to tie that around, one of the things that I wish was like the consensus. It'll hold a little bit better up in the stock market like Amazon's when you talk about crypto, because it doesn't have the regulation. It is the wild, wild west. Like I said, it's still in its infancy. It doesn't have the hundreds of years of stability that the stock market has built. So that is one of the things that I don't like about it, like trying to get people a true consensus behind an idea and to see it through, which, we can talk about that on a separate thing, like a personal finance thing. But yeah, that's one of the things I'm missing that I wish was there. I said IT, and then real estate. Oh man, shortcomings in real estate. Man, I don't know about that one. I think that's a whole nother conversation in itself. I'm just thinking about the factors that play into that: consumer confidence, interest rates, what's going on in the market right now, overinflated prices, just like they were in stocks before they crashed. So it's like so many different things. I can't say that. I don't know. That's a good game. Real estate is, you know what I'm saying? But it's just like crypto is and stocks are if you're into it. So I don't know. I can't say that there's any shortcomings. Everything's about education and access. I will say that's the biggest thing, especially when you talk about Black and brown people. I think I was touching on it earlier, but I didn't say it. One of the things I love about crypto is you can come in with a small amount and can make large amounts. And I'll give you an example of that. We'll take Dogecoin. That was one of the big meme coins that everybody was loving. So back in 2018, 2017, somewhere around there, I let my son just pick a coin on a whim. He picked Dogecoin. We put $50 in it. We looked at it 2021 when everything was at its peak. His $50 had turned into $950.
Wow.
That's a ridiculous increase. Say if we'd have put 10,000 in it, what we would have walked with 100,000, you know, things like that. And I like that you could take small amounts and people can turn that into, you know, a nice little harvest there. So yeah, I'll leave it with that. I wanted to touch back on that because I remembered that from earlier.
So let's just say we've got the 18-year-old Donald Evans, the 22-year-old Donald Evans, the 26-year-old Donald Evans, the 28-year-old Donald Evans. What would you what would you recommend? Like, if you could do it all over again, if you were coming into the market today, just at different age groups, what would you do today as far as your career in regards to positioning yourself? What would you get into? How would you do the things you're doing different? Just what are your thoughts on, like, if you were starting out today, what would you do?
Knowing what I know now,
Yeah.
man, career-wise, I can't say that I've made any like bad career choice. Now, things worked out in its own timing, but yes, I could have gotten some of those certifications or some of those degrees or some of those things earlier. But one thing that I learned from talking to my uncle, as he was telling me, you know, he generally said, you know, it's better for people to come out of college and get some experience first, because generally you won't need that bachelor's or that master's degree till you get about 28, 30 anyway. And most people go to college right off the bat and they screw one or two of those years up. So they end up spending an extra year or two there anyway. So, you know, for the most part, you don't end up needing a 4-year college degree. You may need it at 24, 25, but you're usually only getting out of college maybe 24, 25. So you're just now getting your beginner. And this is just general. This isn't everybody.
You're just checking the block, right?
Yeah, you know, you're just checking the block and now you're in debt, you know, but if you did it the way that we did it, you know, I'm in the military, I'm letting them pay for my college. So I'm getting the education, I'm getting everything I need, unless you came full ride out of college. But if you're not one of those people that came out with a full ride, you know, you may want to think of some alternatives to, like you said, like when you brought up the fact of learn on somebody else's dime. You can get this education multiple ways. Right. As well as get your certs, you know, prep yourself, you know, do some research, see what it takes to get into these jobs of what you're looking for, because it may not be a 4-year degree. That 4-year degree may set you back in what you're trying to do. Just depends. It may help you on later on in life as you start working your way up through management, depending on what you're doing, if you're in the traditional workforce. But if you're an entrepreneur, like both of us are on the side, as well as professionals, you know, doing young professional things, it's all different. So to ask what would I change or what would I do different, it's probably a little nuanced things that are outside of my career that I would change. But inside of my career, I will say I wish I would have listened to some of my older mentors. Like I'm saying, my cousin's one of them. He was just, when he was telling me to go get the degrees, he fought me on it, but I'm glad he stayed on me. And, you know, I had to make sure. Well, I can't make sure. I had to make sure. Yeah, I had to make sure that I was following my mentor's advice and applying it at the right time, because everything I did wasn't for that moment. It was for that future moment. Because had I not got my degree when I did, I wouldn't have been able to go overseas at the time that I did, because at that time that career was looking for a specific thing, not just your security clearance. You know, had I not picked the job I had, I might not have had my secret security clearance working on my way to a top secret. I wouldn't have had, you know, different things during that path. So trying to think, biggest thing I would have changed, and I can't say anything other than if I'd stuck on the path like you went to become like a young exec and be like vice president, senior director, you know, things like that, then yes, I would have changed. But because I took a different route to add in the real estate, add in the crypto, add in the stocks, and doing different, and doing different entity things that I was trying to do. All right, yeah, I probably would have made some changes had I stuck on the path of going a senior executive type route. But on the path that I took, no, I can't say there's too many things I would have changed other than maybe getting to those degrees of certs a little bit quicker.
But I think you did it perfect though, right? You still, at the end of the day, it's not about just like, hey, I'm a career professional and I'm trying to build within this track and get these next, the manager, the senior manager, the PM role, the director role. You still were the executive in your own portfolio. You know what I mean? You had the engineering profession, your real estate company, the crypto thing. That's an executive within itself. It's still the same level of someone that's a director of the company. But you got your own business, you know what I mean? And I would argue you get an equity stake in what you do in your own business, right? So you may be ahead technically, right? But, I mean, yeah. So, but yeah, I think you did it 100% right, and I think the fruits of your labor have bared itself, right? I would think in closing, I would like to ask you, what like final words of wisdom or gems would you give like people that were either young and upcoming, later in their career? What words of wisdom would you pass people, as far as like, thoughts on progressing their career or just living a good life?
Man, I'd say the biggest thing is, especially before you can become a CEO of anything else, is make sure you're becoming a diligent CEO of yourself and consistency. That ties back to what you just asked. Probably would be my consistency. When you're young, you're very inconsistent. It's just like when you work out, you make that New Year's resolution or something goofy, you work out for 2 months straight, you get a buddy, you're all pumped, and then you get to where you get and you start getting a little lax and a little lazy. I was like, consistency is probably the biggest thing. 10,000 shots, whatever it is you're trying to do, if you're throwing up 10,000 shots, you are bound to get better at it. Stay with what you're working at. If if that's truly your dream, if that's truly where you're trying to go, if you want to be a vice president, if you want to be the president, the CEO, whatever it is that you're doing, keep educating yourself, whether that's through a traditional education or from alternative education, consistency, reading. You definitely have to do some reading, not just, YouTubes and other things there, but there's books out there that can help you as well. You'll learn that through college courses as well, but there's
positive intelligence, the good to great, you know what I mean? The 5 dysfunction of a team, things like that, that kind of like build your knowledge base in order to become a better employee,
Yeah. And synergy, make sure you're talking to people. I was at a Prime Steakhouse here in Atlanta. One of those good steakhouses down here. And, I met this gentleman, and I just started talking to him, actually. We're at the bar, I'm drinking my drink. He's got his old fashioned. And one of the big things that my cousin's good at, and even even you and other people that I see, like, I am a talker. I am social, but I don't really like to network. And you've got to network. It doesn't matter what you do. You've got to speak to other people that are either doing what you're doing or just throwing ideas off of people. Be around successful people. Be around people who are good ideas. Even if they're not successful yet, there are people who have those great ideas that are going to become something at someday, which is what I tell my son and the other little boys around him that I mentor. I was like, you never know out of your peer group who's going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, who's going to be the next Bob Johnson, who's going to be the next Pat Horton, who's going to be the next Donald Evans. Somebody in here has great ideas, and don't be afraid. You don't always have to be the leader. Don't be afraid to follow, and add to. Won't even say follow, but just don't be afraid to supplement. Right. Don't be afraid to ask for help and things that you don't know. You got to educate yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, there's value in being part of a team, being part of something that's greater than yourself. And then when your time comes to step out and do your own thing, you've been part of an organization, a team. Now you're kind of branching out. Now you've got that network to reach back to as well. So yeah, there's great value in that.
Yeah.
Hey, but I can't lie. Donald Evans, you're one of my best friends. You're a veteran. You're an entrepreneur, a professional, a man of great integrity, a man with great morals and values. And I wish you nothing but the best. And I know that this lesson is going to reach a lot of young folks that are just kind of out there that are looking for their path in life and the opportunities and what they want to do. And I just think that you're a great person, and you know, I want to put you in front of as many people as I possibly can, because you know, sometimes people just need to hear a story about how someone else made it, and then they can take in all the best parts of someone else and then recreate their own life path. And I think that what you gave us today was just a multitude of just opportunity and just what hard work gets you and what strategic vision gets you and things like that. So I just want to say thank you for coming by and doing this interview with us.
Oh man, I appreciate you and love you, brother.
Yeah,
As
absolutely.
always.
Love you too, sir. All right, thank you, everybody. You guys have a great day, and I think we are out of here for this interview. So fantastic interview.